Iran was unable to come to the aid of Assad. Now, why was Iran unable to come to the aid of Assad? Anybody know? Any third-year high school, any third grader know? Because Israel all but destroyed Hamas, has all but destroyed Hezbollah, was about to destroy Iran and its nuclear sites and its oil fields. Iran is extraordinarily weak. We now know by that retaliation by Israel that they actually did hit some of their key nuclear sites. They didn't take out the nuclear development, but they took out some of their sites. They took out all of Iran's air detection devices and missile systems that the Russians had given them. I mean, you got to say something for this army. It's tiny, but they sure as hell know what the hell they're doing. It's really quite remarkable if you think. They're surrounded by 250 million people, a nation of 6 million Jews, 7 million Jews. It's really quite, well, they get American equipment. Everybody gets American equipment. The Afghanis got it. What happened to it? And I can go through that, but the Israelis actually pay for it. Syria has collapsed. Assad is gone, you well know. He is hiding out in Moscow. If I could give him advice, I would stay off the 9th floor, because the 9th floor in most of these apartment buildings seem to be problematic. Everybody thinks they're a bird, and they apparently try and fly, and they wind up splattered on the sidewalk. That is, they're assassinated. Well, actually, in the case of Assad, I recommend the 9th floor. So what's happening here? People want us to predict, okay, he's gone, now all these terrorists are coming in, so what's going to happen? Well, terrorists are coming in. So I doubt you're going to have a Jeffersonian democracy in Syria, because you've never had one there. Quite frankly, you've never had one in most of the Middle East, except for Israel. Historically, some of them have made an effort, but I'd say in the last 2,000 years, no. So Syria is a hellhole. Assad is a genocidal monster. He killed 600,000 of his own people to hold on to power. He was backed by Iran and Hezbollah, and he was backed by Russia. The terrorists, we're talking about ISIS, we're talking about Al-Qaeda-related organizations, we're talking about real mass-murdering terrorists. They're the ones who toppled the Assad regime and are now taking control, such as it is, of Syria. They're backed by Turkey. Turkey is a NATO country. Turkey is now an Islamist country run by a jihadist, Erdogan, who is a Israel hater, who also obviously hates other Arab countries. He's not an Arab, that's not an Arab country, but Arab countries in the neighborhood. There was a great Turkish leader by the name of Ataturk. And after all the wars and after the Ottoman Empire and as time went on, he established a secular nation with religion, but secular in the sense that all religions were welcome and so forth. Really copied after the West. Not exactly, but significantly. And Turkey was, in the recent past, a fairly vibrant, thriving democracy. But he was head of this small party, Erdogan, a Muslim/socialist party, an extremist party. And he weaseled his way into power, and so then he destroyed the whole democratic system. They have votes. I talk about this all the time, how fascists, Marxists, Islamists, they always talk about democracy. We're for democracy. We're for reform. We're for the people. Of course, they're for the opposite. So they have elections there, but he seems to win all of them. And he should have lost the last one, because every single opposition group united to defeat him, and yet he won. What happened was, some years back, as his regime was weakening because it doesn't have the popular will of the citizenry, he claimed that there was a coup effort. So he rounded up about 20,000 top military officers, top police officers, intellectuals, opposition editors and reporters to newspapers, people of that sort, and they disappeared. And he controlled the whole country. He's built himself a 100,000 square foot palace. Isn't even 10,000 square feet a little big? A 100,000 square foot palace. I guess he doesn't plan on leaving. He's the one who is behind these terrorists, funding them. His army's training them. Hamas, their leadership, such as it is, ran from Qatar, because Qatar is a terrorist state, but they're a little nervous now with Trump coming in. So they said, I think you got to leave. And they went to Turkey. where he protects them. He's constantly threatening the state of Israel, that is Erdogan in Turkey. Even though he would seem to be at odds with Russia, he works and plays very closely with Russia. And so that's what's taking place there. And Israel sees this happening. You know what Israel says? Okay, that's our 8th front. Syria's on the border with Israel and Lebanon. Can you imagine these terrorists with all these weapons? Well, Israel can't. They're very wise. This Netanyahu is really a great leader. So he decides, you know what? I'm going to destroy their navy. They destroyed their navy in 2 days. And while we're at it, I think we're going to destroy what little air force they have and their airfields. So they've blown up all their airfields. And they have a lot of poison gas. Can you imagine that in the hands of the terrorists? So wherever they're aware of there's poison gas being stored, they've blown that up too. Then they have missile factories. Not anymore. They blew those up. And then they have storage, huge storage bins with missiles, and where they found those, they blew those up too. They're blowing up anything related to the military and terrorist infrastructure of Syria. And it's the biggest bombing campaign by the Israelis in the history of Israel. And they're doing it without their 2,000-pound bombs that Biden's withholding, as well as other things he's withholding. Now, of course, the Arab world is up in arms. While behind the scenes, they're cheering and they're thrilled. Wait a minute, Israel's taking advantage of this. Israel's not taking advantage of anything. Israel's thinking, okay, 6 months from now, these terrorists could be controlling this country. We don't want them having these weapons and so forth and so on. Russia can't bend a finger right now. It's a little busy, you might say, with Ukraine. So it was unable to come to the aid of Assad. Iran was unable to come to the aid of Assad. Now, why was Iran unable to come to the aid of Assad? Anybody know? Any third-year high school, any third grader know? Because Israel all but destroyed Hamas, has all but destroyed Hezbollah, and was about to destroy Iran and its nuclear sites and its oil fields. Iran is extraordinarily weak. We now know by that retaliation by Israel that they actually did hit some of their key nuclear sites. They didn't take out the nuclear development, but they took out some of their sites. They took out all of Iran's air detection devices and missile systems that the Russians had given them. They destroyed them all. I mean, you got to say something for this army. It's tiny, but they sure as hell know what the hell they're doing. It's really quite remarkable if you think. They're surrounded by 250 million people. A nation of 6 million Jews, 7 million Jews. It's really quite... Well, they get American equipment. Everybody gets American equipment. The Afghanis got it. What happened to it? And I can go through that. But the Israelis actually pay for it. And we actually have to go through Congress. And Biden's actually boycotting them, as he just gave Iran $10 billion in sanctions relief. Just gave it to them 2 weeks, 3 weeks after the election, like a week ago, while he's boycotting Israel.
For all this and much more, sign up for Levin TV.